Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Hey, interesting day. Right-wing talk radio, right-wing cable news. Got a man killed today. Good job, Tucker. Way to go, Hannity, Ingram, the F channel, all you crazy wannabes. Nice job. Limbaugh's probably smiling at his handiwork from his grave, I'm sure, as a faithful, I'm sure, of all of those, a Truth Social member, and some of the Truth Social comments. Wow. Decided in Cincinnati, Ohio, gonna break into an FBI building, gonna storm the FBI with a nail gun and an AR-15. And you go, which I don't know, which one should I take? The AR-15, nail gun, which one's going to get me through the bulletproof glass? I think we're going to go with the nail gun. I think we'll go nail gun on this. Yeah, nail gun. And to his credit, I'll give the guy credit. He put out on True Social in a truth. Well, I thought I had a way through bulletproof glass, and I didn't. If you don't hear from me, it's true. I tried to attack the FBI, and it'll either mean I was taken off the internet, the FBI got me, or they sent the regular cops. No, they killed him in a cornfield. And look, you know, I never talk about crazy people and I don't say their names. I don't talk about their manifestos, any of this stuff. But I was reading through some of the Truth Social posts, through some of the social media posts. And it's eerily familiar to all of the stuff that I read on Gab before January 6th, the kind of hatred, the vitriol, the kind of calls to arms. We're going to take our country back. Talking about, no, we're not going to go, mass shootings where leftists go, or lighting buses on fire with transsexuals in them. This is what he wrote. Not finding people with leftist signs in their yards and beating them up. Violence is not all terrorism. He says, kill the FBI on sight and be ready to take down other active enemies of the people and those who try to prevent you from doing this. And this look, this is what the right wing has grown. This is what they have fostered. This is the kind of rhetoric they've encouraged from top down. Because look, the Q people, the Q people. What was their first response? Pedophile ring. Yeah, the judge who signed the warrant, pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein, pedophile. That's their response to everything. And the whole reason that they went after Trump is because he was gonna bust the whole ring wide open. The guy who was on Epstein's island, pictures of him, with his arm around Epstein, he was only there undercover. He was only there undercover. He was only going through the Miss Teen USA pageants, looking at the naked girls. Undercover. Yeah, that kind of stuff. He was going to bust this wide open. This is how they think. And the kind of rhetoric that you see and you read from them, dangerous. But the right wing has created platforms specifically because this is free speech. And look, since yesterday, interesting phone call yesterday, got me a couple of very, very bizarre emails from right-wing folks. And look, I've got some MAGA listeners as a union guy. And look, there are a lot of good union members who have kind of lost their minds on this MAGA stuff. So I got a bunch of it. And, this Tree of Liberty stuff. We're at a moment, Rick. I had one guy write me, it's time to water the Tree of Liberty with the blood of tyrants and patriots. This kind of, the kind of talk that I'm sure this guy bought into. I feel sorry for this guy. Because I'm sure in his heart of hearts, He believed that he was fighting the good fight. He bought what they were selling. And really what they were selling was beet juice and vitamins and stuff to get into his pocket. They were just using fear, anger, and a little bit of, hey, we've got the message. We've got the way. So you got people who are a little desperate, a little afraid, a little dim. I mean, that's a cocktail for disaster. And as a friend reminded me, you give me that recipe, I can turn you into a jihadist or a Jehovah's Witness. Either way. And this is what where the right wing understands. They understand the messaging and the constant drumbeat of fear and anger, the kind of outrage candy that they have to keep feeding these folks. The government's coming for you. They're coming for you. An attack on our dear leaders, an attack on you. 3 times today, I got the Churchill quote. 3 times. It's not a choice to fight evil. You must fight evil, for it will either kill you now or kill you later, but it will surely kill you. You may have to fight when there's no hope of victory, because it's better to perish then than to live as slaves. And you go, wait a second, what are you talking about? And of course, yesterday Waco came up and Ruby Ridge came up again. And I went to my MAGA cabinet. I have a few people that I go to, and I said, hey, what do you think of this? And did I get an education on Ruby Ridge and Waco and the Montana Freemen and how all the FBI, they're, jackbooted thugs and all of this stuff. I'm going, but wait a second. There's this rule of law thing. And I come back to what my original statement was yesterday. There's the rule of law. When the FBI comes to your door, you got 2 choices. You can comply with the search warrant, you can comply with the arrest warrant, or you can fight. And if you fight, consequences are what they're going to be, because they're not just going to go away. Oh, we didn't mean the search warrant. Oh, we didn't mean for you. Oh, you said no. Okay, we'll go away. You got 2 choices in this country. You comply or you fight. And if you fight, you deal with the consequences. Because in this country, we have the rule of law. And this is where I went yesterday. You have the full access to the judicial system. That's how we deal with disputes. And as they were laying out the Ruby Ridge thing, especially, he was just protecting his family. I go, but wasn't he under indictment already? Wasn't he supposed to show up to court? And weren't they coming to? Well, yeah. Well, yeah. And you go, but again, it's the rule of law. If you don't show up to court, they're going to come get you. That's how this works, right? The Freemen is the same thing. They decided they were going to bounce checks and break the law. Are they not held accountable? And the answer, well, it's different. And this is where the frustration I have is, because we have a former president that we now understand they were looking for classified documents that have to do with nuclear stuff, nuclear documents in his possession. What was he going to do with those? And would it matter? Would it matter that, who knows? Could he be our AQ con? Could he be selling? Who knows? It's twisted, and we're in just this weird kind of world. Now, they're saying that the informant possibly was part of the Secret Service. Could have been. But it's an interesting place that we're in. Because you've got MAGA world who can do no wrong. Trump can do no wrong. Now, remember what I said right from the start. Right when this happened, I said Trump could put all this to bed. He could make that search warrant public. He could have said, this is what they came to look for. And he could make his defense. He could have done that. And he didn't. In fact, if you remember, Eric, the brilliant one, said they never even got a copy of it. Got nothing. They got nothing. Now, he lied. A Trump family trait. Here's the fun part. Because I said they could do this. It would lay out what they were looking for. And now we kind of know. Merrick Garland today comes out and goes, you know what? We're going to seek to unseal that. We're going to seek, because we understand the significance of the scrutiny taken here. We want full transparency. We want sunlight. We want accountability. And they're opening this up. They want to open this up. Here's going to be the fun part. So MAGA world, I want you to pay attention because this is important. What are you going to do when Trump says, no, we don't want that made public? We're going to file to ensure that it remains sealed. What are you going to do? Where does the loyalty then go? And I go back to this person who was killed today. Murdered because of Fox News. Murdered because of the radicalization of the right-wing outrage candy that he's been shoved down his throat for decades. All because, and I will put my last dollar on it. All because I'll guarantee life wasn't what he was hoping for. Struggling to make ends meet. This isn't the country that he grew up believing in. That work hard, play by the rules thing, get ahead thing wasn't working out. And constant diet of blaming those people, those others. Again, you come back to what I said at the beginning. Someone who's a little afraid, a little fear, a little dim, a little desperate, you can turn them into anything. As my friend said, from a jihadist to a Jehovah's Witness. It's scary stuff. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Kurt on line one. Kurt, what's on your mind?
Well, good evening, Rick, and thank you for taking the call.
What's on your mind?
So this is the thing that really bothers me the most about these Fox Noise hosts and these, I don't even want to call them politicians. They're trolls in Congress. Is these people know better, or at least we're supposed to believe they know better as far as how the Constitution works, if they're only telling you a half-truth, because, how are you going to get people enraged like that? I don't even call him a gentleman. That person down in my state of Ohio, in Cincinnati, who went to the FBI office today, and then, what was it? He was shot and killed by the police?
Yep.
So, this is dangerous, and this is, I just have to say, a lot of these have to be these younger boomers who may have missed a few civics classes before they took civics out of the public schools, and a lot of these Gen Xers who grew up under 40 years of Reaganomics. As Tom Hartman would say, all bad things today lead back to Ronald Reagan.
Yep, no, I agree.
So I just wish, I don't know, and I understand that low information voter, that's not necessarily a bad term. Low information voter are a lot of people who are just too busy living life, like you said, to make ends meet in order to survive. They don't have the time. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are quote-unquote low information voters are driving from job to job or place to place, and they think they're being informed, and unfortunately there's not enough, say, liberal talk radio stations that carry the Rick Smith show, but they listen to conservative talk radio. So if you're going to get that steady diet, of course you're going to have fear, and you're going to have hate, and you're going to have, whatever, because, it's them against you, and it just baffles me, and I'm almost speechless tonight.
No,
because of what happened in Cincinnati.
It's disgraceful, and I'm heartbroken for this family and the people involved in this, because this didn't have to happen. Because this was
it didn't.
And the sad thing is it's probably going to happen again, because this is the environment that's being created on the right, and it's not just the F channel and all of the F channel wannabes on cable news and all of the Limbaugh wannabes. It's our political system that is bought into this as well. You've got politicians. You got Rand Paul coming out and saying that the FBI is planting evidence. For me, that's
and that. Go ahead.
I mean, it's unforgivable for a politician to come out and say something like that.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene amplified it an hour later. Did you see Michael Steele talk about that? You had Rand Paul at 9 o'clock talking about the planted evidence, and Marjorie Taylor Greene at 10 o'clock.
Right. Now, here's the thing. This is the important part, Kurt. The coordination on the right the Democrats are terrible at this, and I've
Oh,
talked about this for
absolutely.
years.
Absolutely.
They are horrible at messaging. They are horrible at coordination. Republicans have got it down to a science. They understand
God,
how
I
this
agree.
outrage machine has to work. They are coordinated with the talk radio side, with the cable news side, all of the online side. They are all a machine. The message goes out. It is a top-down filtered machine, think tank tested, focus group approved, man. They have got it down. So none of this
And
stuff
when
is
it bleeds,
by chance.
it leads.
That's it.
Right, and when it bleeds for them.
No, none of this stuff is by chance. And again, I come back to why this is. It's to keep us pitted against each other. It's to keep you and me and everyone else, all of the working class, fighting each other so that they continue to rob us blind by stealing wages, by taking health care benefits, by destroying pension security, by robbing our coffers constantly. And what are we fighting over? Who goes to which bathroom? If a criminal gets held accountable, it's insane where we are, Kurt.
It is. It's absolutely insane, and it just baffles me that it's all because of one Charles Manson wannabe to the next level.
Yeah, see, I'm
You know,
not
this
going to
guy-
give Trump that kind of power. He's in this position, but this is where the Republican Party has been going for a very long time. I'm not going to do the Liz Cheney and focus solely on Trump to save the GOP. The GOP is infested by criminals and cowards and all of this. And the whole party needs to be fixed. So my Republican friends, and I know some decent people who are still,
Oh, I do too.
please take your party somewhere back near the sane line and get rid of these people. Run for office.
You know, the thing, and that's the one thing I would say is until they start going back to the days of, hell, I'd even say go back to the days of Nixon almost, and that's pretty bad to say go back to the days of Nixon, but it's definitely the days of Eisenhower. I got no use for this Republican Party, and that's sad because
Yep.
I don't want one-party rule in this country, namely the Democratic Party, because then that becomes horrible. I like the two-party system where you have a fair, healthy debate of ideas.
There you go.
That's what it comes down to. And right now, the Republican Party has no ideas other than tax breaks for the wealthy. But in order to get those votes, because clearly they don't have the votes on that idea alone, they have to talk about critical race theory, like you said, transgender, homosexuality, black people, brown people, you know, the rapists and the murderers and the drug dealers and some very nice people, and there's good people on both sides.
Except
that's
your
the
side.
kind of garbage. And that's been the whole thing about, you know, all the politicians suck. Everyone in Congress sucks. We need to get rid of every one of them. But why is it that my guy sucks, but your guy is great, or vice versa? That's the problem. We love our guy. I'm not saying you and me specifically.
No, I don't.
in
Scott Perry's my
generality.
representative. I want to see him in jail. So don't throw me in
Right, but
that
you know,
lump.
okay. But I'm just saying in generalities, people will say, your guy sucks, but my guy is great. So we keep electing the same yahoos over and over and over again.
Yep.
I mean, does Chuck Grassley really need to be in the Senate when he's like 150 years old?
I think there's someone better in Iowa, and I'm hoping very soon they will find someone. But
That's Mark. That's actually Mark. I mean, what's his name? I can't think of his name. He's an admiral, and I can't think of his name. It escapes me right now. And you know, the sad part is that guy is a military brass. He's probably a decorated soldier in the U.S. military. Being an admiral, you'd have to be. I'll guarantee you, Chuck Grassley, which I want to know Chuck Grassley's role on January 6th. Why did he all of a sudden become prepared to take Mike Pence's place that day? That's what I want to know. But I'll guarantee you Chuck Grassley's going to win with a huge plurality of the vote in Iowa this year.
I'm with you. But Kurt, I appreciate the time, man. Good call.
Thank you, and you have a good night.
You too. Thanks so much. It's interesting, you know, Kurt brings up Chuck Grassley, because Grassley had an interesting comment that grabbed my attention. Because the other boogeyman here, again, back to the fear. Republicans are focusing, you know, on the latest, the greatest hate focus, bringing back an oldie but a goodie, because everyone hates paying taxes, right? I do. I do it because, you know, that's how we pay for our roads and our bridges and education and all the things that we need. But he came out and said of the Inflation Reduction Act, are we going to have a strike force that goes in with AK-15s? AK-15s. I think he meant AR-15s. Ready to shoot some small business person in Iowa? So he's already priming the dim, the fear, the afraid, the desperate by going, hey, that IRS agent, we're going to give them AK-15s now. I guess we've developed a new weapon, according to him. But we're going to give them weapons, and they're going to come kicking in your door because we've given money to the IRS to go after rich people so that they'll pay their taxes. But again, this is about the fear. And again, this message has been amplified by numerous politicians and right-wing pundits. And what's frightening to me, if you look at the most recent Morning Consult poll, Trump's support has actually gone up. 58% of Republican voters said that they would support him in the 2024 primary if it were held today. That's the highest on record since his 2020 loss. That is kind of a big deal, because what that tells us is the right-wing echo chamber is in full spin mode. That they've got a hold of their base, and the outrage candy, it's working. The fear, it's working. When the Wall Street Journal, this is one of those things that just amazes me. The newspaper of the investor class, the Wall Street Journal, runs an op-ed. I mean, this is just amazing to me. That says, you can hate Donald Trump until your eyes pop out, but let's be clear, he was the 45th president of the U.S. He served 4 years in office. No president who was disliked by many, not Clinton, not Reagan, nor FDR, had his home invaded by a squad of FBI agents. This should never happen in the U.S. End of discussion. End of discussion. Now, here's the weird part. We're now finding out that had nuclear documents. Now finding out that they requested numerous times. Also found out that, I guess, in the spring, they subpoenaed for these documents. Oh, didn't know that. No, didn't know that they'd continually asked. They sent a team down, got boxes, took some of their stuff back, said, hey, we know there's more. Here's a subpoena. We want that stuff back. And a defiant Trump. No. Does any of this matter to MAGA world? Now, look, I know the folks on the left, they're giddy with the possibility that Trump's going to end up in an orange jumpsuit picking up litter on the side of the highway. That's never happening. He's not going to jail. But some bit of accountability, don't you think, is important? I don't care who the president was. We haven't had this kind of criminality ever. And to have a large segment of our population who doesn't seem to care, in fact, has politicized this to the point to where any accountability whatsoever is pure politics, is ridiculous. We folks have a lot of growing to do. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, our good friend Sarah Burris is going to be here to share some thoughts on her work over at Raw Story. She's one of my favorite reporters over there. If you miss any of our program, make sure you grab the podcast. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day the International Longshoremen's and Warehousemen's Union was founded, after the victorious strike of 1934 that established the Union Hiring Hall. West Coast Union leaders embarked on an inland campaign to organize the thousands of warehouse workers who handled shipped goods. But West Coast dock workers overwhelmingly chose to join the CIO after it was expelled from the AFL earlier that year. They found found that the ILA planned to abandon the warehouse workers they had worked so hard to organize. They also opposed dues assessments to fight the CIO and disagreed with the ILA's hostility to minimum wage laws, Social Security, and unemployment insurance. Radicals like Harry Bridges and others had established themselves not only as workers' leaders, but also led attacks on Jim Crow racism in the ranks and in the industry. The success of the 1934 strike was due in part to the welcoming of blacks into the ranks of the Union. In his book, Workers on the Waterfront, historian Bruce Nelson notes that, quote, the ILWU's well-known opposition to racial discrimination was an important factor in the Union's expansion into Hawaii, not only on the waterfront, but among sugar and pineapple plantation workers. The triumph of the ILWU in Hawaiian agriculture brought about a degree of fraternization across racial lines that few had thought possible. Since then, the Union has beat back numerous Taft-Hartley and McCarthy-era attacks. More recently, the ILWU has been in the forefront of broader social justice struggles, leading walkouts and work stoppages for various political causes. Today, it represents close to 60,000 workers, including those locals that initially refused to affiliate. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
America's stringent system of corporate capitalism keeps carving out new depths of worker exploitation. Take Chick-fil-A, a right-wing, Atlanta-based fast food operation boasting that it follows, quote, biblically based principles. Like slavery? Well, Chick-fil-A hasn't gone quite that biblical yet, but one of its franchises recently pioneered a novel labor compensation innovation that comes close, literally paying some workers chicken feed. This outlet of the $11 billion a year chain called on area residents to staff its new drive-through express. But in lieu of wages, they were offering chicken sandwiches. Join the express team and you'd be paid 5 chicken items per shift. That worked out to less than minimum wage, plus indigestion. What we have here is one more absurd illustration that America's sanctified work ethic is a fraud, an empty promise that you'll get ahead if you just work hard enough, keep your nose to the grindstone, and stay loyal to the corporate order for life, no matter how vacuous. But the game is up, for workers across the economy are now seeking more from life than 50 years of serving the company. They're even organizing anti-workaholism groups like I Don't Want a Career, Rest is Resistance, and the NAP Ministry. But don't mistake this rebellion as mere satire by a few puckish slackers. Today's nationwide shortage of workers, from truck drivers to teachers, is not a momentary economic blip, but a defiant declaration of independence from a form of work that is life-sucking. This is Jim Hightower saying, people are not afraid of hard work, nor averse to long hours, if the task and the cause are worth both time and effort. And worth it is increasingly being measured in higher values than dollars alone, including a sense of purpose, community, respect, fairness, and fun.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So you gotta love the you gotta love the fact that Fox News and Trump now have a new defense. You gotta love the defense, and the defense is what about Obama? you gotta love that defense. What about Obama? Obama did stuff. Obama did stuff. I mean, that's the defense. The defense is but what about them over there? I wasn't me. It's incredible. I mean, really quite remarkable when you stop and think about it. That this is the world that we're in. That's the defense. That is the defense. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the what about Obama defense. I've asked our good friend Sarah Burris to come share some thoughts with us. Sarah, let's give this a try. How are we doing?
We're good. How are you?
Oh, I'm enjoying some of the justifications for some of the insanity. Like, our best defense is, what about Obama?
And that one would be completely logical if the National Archives hadn't gone through all of Obama's documents and, all of the people who do national security stuff hadn't reviewed everything that Obama has and turned everything over to the Presidential Library, which, by the way, is a branch of the National Archives because that's where presidential documents go. And so I've been really frustrated by that argument all day because it just shows a complete ignorance and lack of understanding for how presidenting, I guess, works. And you would think that Fox people, no, I guess you wouldn't think that Fox people would know better.
No.
You really wouldn't.
No. And look, in fact, I've been to a number of presidential libraries, and we've talked to people who are the curators, and they tell us the same thing. This is where all of the documents are. And are there classified documents here? Oh no, those are stayed there because they weed those out. There's a process for that, and it's done through the National Archives. So, I'm not a bright guy, but I at least know that, having gone to the George W. Bush Library, having gone to the Jimmy Carter Library. We're just at the JFK Library. I've been to a bunch of them, Eisenhower's, Truman's. We've been to a bunch of them. They all kind of say the same thing. No national security stuff, but we do have all the documents.
But apparently, Trump has the nuclear stuff at Mar-a-Lago. So that was the exciting news for the evening. So at the very least, Obama doesn't have all of the nuclear stuff at the Obama Library, which I don't think it's even open yet.
Not yet. So, no, because I do want to go to that. Because it's one of the things that I like.
I figured.
No, it's one of the things I like doing. I like seeing the presidential libraries. I've been to McKinley's. So, not much there, but it's something. They gave it a try. But here's the thing, and I keep coming back to this. My view on all of this is I truly don't think Trump was going to sell them. I've had some people going, no, he was going to sell nuclear secrets. I don't know. I don't think he was going to do that. I think this was purely a vanity thing. Hey, look what I've got. I truly think that's what it is.
Maybe. I mean, it may also have been that he jacked them because he thought that he might sell them. Like, I can see him thinking, well, I don't know if, things are going to get bad. Like, what if I lose everything and I need some cash and this is my only option?
So you're going to go down to the rabbit hole of, hey, he needs cash, going to sell those nuclear secrets to Iran, he's going to give it to Rudy to sell to the Mujahideen Khalq. Is this the route we're thinking?
I don't know. I think he probably, if he had them for a reason like that, it wasn't to immediately sell them. I think it was just a plan for, maybe if something bad happens, this is my get out of jail free card or something.
I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, I'm actually quite amazed at the response from the general public of going, look, we just want our nuclear secrets. We want our stuff back. Theft is a bad thing. And having people go, no, you raided the president's house. Yeah, because he took stuff that didn't belong to him. We used to, as a country, as parents, we used to think, no, stealing is bad. As Christian people, there's one of those rules that you want plastered everywhere. That's one of those. Thou shalt
not jack stuff.
Thou shalt not jack stuff, right.
The thing that's crazy to me is watching all of these Republicans fall all over themselves trying to defend Donald Trump. And the statement that came out today was a Trump world ally or something told Republicans, hey, you guys, you may want to kind of cut it down a little bit because you don't know what all they have and what all he had and how bad this could be. So you may maybe keep it on the DL, but that really didn't stop anybody. Even Steve Scalise was talking about bad apples in the FBI this morning. And it's really surprising to me that these guys they trusted Trump again. Yeah. He clearly did something really stupid. Folks don't know how bad or how stupid it is, but they're willing to go to the mattresses for him. And you're just like, really? Like, you guys got a couple months before the election. Maybe
Don't
give props for breaking national security.
And look, and as I said at the beginning here, some poor schlub decided he was going to get the AR-15 and a nail gun, and somehow that nail gun was going to get him through bulletproof glass. I want to know the YouTube video that said, "Here's how you get through bulletproof glass with a nail gun." I want to see that. But you get Fox News and the other outrage idiots got this guy killed. And it's because of this kind of heated rhetoric, where even now, as you've pointed out, Trump's going, maybe not go so far.
And the thing is like they've been doing this for a while now. They've had, 4 people died as a result of January 6th, and they've got this thing, and it's like, please, for the love of God, would you figure out that this is not a game anymore? Like, really, going after people like this it's not safe. And the idea that everybody is losing their mind over Brett Kavanaugh, having to walk past women with signs on the sidewalk, but you've got a group of people who are talking about, like, sharing the information of this judge and this federal judge, and like who his family is and where he goes to temple, and I mean, that's just really disturbing.
Yeah, but Sarah, he's a pedophile. This is what we're being told. Right from the beginning. That's it. Right, first club out of the bag. Pedophile.
First club out of the bag was, it was the New York Post, so it was a Murdoch outlet who said he's linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, you know how he's linked to Epstein? He worked for a woman who was one of Epstein's victims, his scheduler, who was called, he used to call her his sex slave. Like, really? You want to try and claim that this guy was an Epstein person when he was the one who was helping people, who were on the other side of Epstein? That just doesn't...
He was in the same room.
Like
he was in the same room, Sarah. That's all that matters. And for those folks, and yes, I know it's pedophile, but he was a pedophile. He was one of those there pedophile. He was in the room. Trump was in the room, but he was conducting an investigation, because, as the Q folks are saying, the reason the FBI raided his personal safe was to get the information, because he was going to break this all open. He was going to break open the big ring.
Sure. If that was true, why didn't he do that, right after he lost the election? Or right before he lost the election?
Or right, the day you found out?
Yeah. Like, why do you sit on stuff like that? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, but I look at this guy today going to the FBI building, and look, it's predictable. This kind of heated rhetoric, this kind of, when you got Chuck Grassley now, pointing people at the IRS, going, and I don't know when AK-15s came around, but evidently IRS agents are going to have AK-15s, and they're going to start kicking in doors with no knock warrants because you took an extra deduction, which I'm going, really? I'm more afraid of the pocket protector and the pen, but okay, you've got the AK-15. Yeah.
That's the thing that's really scary to me, is that so what has been happening is the IRS has been coming after normal people like us because we're easy, right? Yep. Like, if you can show up at my door and get like $2,000 out of me, that's a good day's work. And but if you go up against a millionaire or a billionaire who can spend a good chunk of change fighting you in court, that takes a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort, staff time, and so going after those people is not something that is advantageous to the IRS. So they don't do it. That's why a big piece of what Democrats have been saying is, if you actually fully fund the IRS, then maybe we can go after some of these millionaires and billionaires who don't even pay the tiny bit of taxes that they have to pay. And instead, they're coming after us. So it's so frustrating, because I hear people like Grassley, and it's like, dude, give them money so they'll leave people like us alone who, somebody claims like, a dog walker on their taxes for $50, something like that. Like,
well, the key here still is, I'm sorry, don't claim the dog walker.
True. Definitely don't claim the dog walker on your taxes.
It's. But again, I've had a bunch of conservatives yell at me. Well, you're supporting the IRS. You're supporting the FBI. Yeah. If you don't want the IRS knocking on your door, don't cheat. If you don't want the FBI knocking on your door, don't crime. This doesn't seem all that difficult.
It really doesn't seem that complicated. It seems very easy to say that, the idea that Republicans are saying, if they're going after Trump, the next thing is they're going after you. No, they're really not, because I'm not criming. I'm not even close to criming. Like, there's no criming that could even possibly happen, because I would rather take a nap. So, really, I'm not your person.
You mean when you go to the wedding, you just don't have nuclear documents laying around? You just don't have classified documents on the coffee table? You don't have that laying around?
No.
What's wrong with you?
I really don't. I know, clearly. I got some Harry Potter books on the shelf, and that is the extent of my excitement in my apartment.
Last bit on Trump. Didn't he once say something about pleading the fifth? Was there a statement that mumbled out of his mouth one time?
Oh, he said mobsters plead the fifth.
And yet we find out that, was it yesterday, 440 times he pled the fifth?
Yeah, and what's really funny is he put out a statement, I think, as he was going in to meet the people doing the deposition, because, it basically seemed like, we got the statement and I was like, wow, that was a fast deposition. No, the dude was there all day long. And he just put out the statement the second he walked in the door. So he knew he was going to plead the fifth, and he was basically trying to come up with the excuse for it for, however long, and explain away the fact that he was like, well, I don't know, I guess I'm going to have to do this thing. But now he says, he understands it now. He understands why people plead the fifth. Yes, because you don't want to incriminate yourself, because you've incriminated yourself.
Because you've committed crimes. Yes.
You have crimes.
Completely
get done incriminating things.
Exactly. When you're criming, yeah. And this is what I tell my kids all the time. You have the right to remain silent. Use that. Use it often. It's one of your rights. Know it, internalize it, use it. And this is where I wish Trump would do more of that.
And don't ride off the dog walker.
And the dog walker. You listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Sarah Burris. Sarah's a reporter over at Raw Story. RawStory.com is where you can find her stuff. She does fabulous work there. I want to get your thoughts on my state of Pennsylvania. Evidently, a bunch of subpoenas are flying around the state house. In fact, the FBI, the dreaded FBI, is interviewing a bunch of, I'm pretty sure, mostly Republican House members. And I got to assume that this has got to do with the fake electors and all of the nonsense around the trying to steal the election, like our Nazi governor. Curious your thoughts on the subpoena stuff.
That's what I thought too, because this sort of looks a little bit like what they did in Georgia with some of the fake electors there. So my assumption was that this goes back to that. The DOJ is really cracking down on this. This is a legit thing. These people willingly signed their name on a piece of paper that was a fake document that was then, nearly handed to the vice president on the Senate floor during the counting of the certification of the 2020 election. And that's as close as you get to, a piece of paper basically being a coup, right?
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Now, so the question I have for you is, people have been taking a lot of shots at Merrick Garland over the last couple of months. And look, I've questioned why it's taking so long, but I've always said we're not hearing anything, so they must be busy. Are we now starting to see the busy work come to light?
So one of the things that I heard somebody who actually knows him say is that Merrick Garland is very, very quiet. And he's kind of like a tank where he's going to move the tank around and take very close aim, and nothing's going to happen until he fires. And when he fires, it's going down. And so my guess is that this is it. this is it happening, right? Everything is now, it seems like everything now is coming out all at once. And I can only gather that it's because he's got it all.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, right? Is that this is not somebody who's going to wait around and think, oh, maybe we don't have this case. Maybe I can't, he can't be guilty. That from what people say about Garland is he doesn't move until he knows he's gonna get a conviction. So we'll see.
We will see, which is why, I've been saying all through this part, the reason we haven't seen any leaks is because people know that they got work to do, and they're all focused on a task, and they're all going in the right direction. The reason that Trump's DOJ leaked like a sieve is because, well, they weren't doing the work. So this, I'm guardedly optimistic. Lastly, I got to get your thought on this. Maybe you're excited about this. Maybe you're not. There's a new conservative dating app coming online next month. It's called The Right Stuff. It's The Right Stuff. This could be the right stuff. Sarah, could be the right stuff. It's seeking to open up a new door for the political right who hope to find more like-minded people in the romantic world.
They've tried this a couple of times. I don't remember what it was called, but there was some kind of Trump supporter dating app that they had briefly that didn't go anywhere. Nobody signed up for it because nobody wanted to date a Trumper. And I think, too, like, that's the other piece of this is that the Republican Party has been really taken over, co-opted by the Trump people. So how many people want to date Trumpers? It's only other Trumpers.
Yeah.
So
Angry Dude Social was already taken. Is that why they're calling it The Right Stuff?
I guess. And Peter Thiel, the PayPal dude, is the one who's financing the thing. He financed like $1.5 million of it. I just don't see how this is going to work. It makes me think a little bit about Getter. Remember Getter? Oh. It's kind of like that, or like Truth Social, where Trump showed up at CPAC, and it turns out there were 85 people in the audience who were on Truth Social out of, a couple thousand. So, they can't even get their own people to join in.
Wow. Heck, I'm on Truth Social. How do you have not every idiot there? Because I want to read what the crazy people are saying.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do it, especially after seeing some of the stuff that they've been saying about Civil War and yada yada about the FBI. Man, that was some rough stuff to read.
Yeah,
These people are nuts.
No, it's where we are. I want to know where my neighbors are. But Sarah, I appreciate the time as always. Great stuff.
Thank you. I'm sorry our audio was so jacked.
That's all right. It worked well. Good stuff. Our good friend Sarah Burris. Make sure you check out her work over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website. Right back, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1894. That was the day that federal troops pushed Kelly's Industrial Army out of Washington, D.C. and across the Potomac River. The Army was a group of unemployed men who had come to the nation's capital to protest government inaction. The country was in the grip of an economic depression. The nation's agricultural regions in the South and Great Plains were also hit by a drought. Times were hard for American workers and families. The call had gone out across the nation for the unemployed to make their way to the doorstep of Congress. The goal was to petition for public infrastructure projects to put people back to work. Businessman Jacob Coxey had organized a March of the Unemployed from Ohio. Charles T. Kelly and his group came from California. They rode the rails and made it to Des Moines, Iowa, where they encamped. After a while, the local residents decided the unemployed group had outstayed their welcome. The Iowans provided lumber so the Industrial Army could build flatboats and be on their way. By the time Charles Kelly and his men made it to D.C., Coxey had already been sentenced to 20 days in jail for trespassing on the Capitol lawn. Yet unemployed men from across the country kept coming into the nation's capital. 1,200 men arrived from different points across the country. One of those in Kelly's group was a young author by the name of Jack London. London wrote of his experience, quote, across the wild and woolly West, clear from California. General Kelly and his heroes captured trains, but they fell down when they crossed the Missouri and went up against the effete East. The marchers' protests earned no help from Congress. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So John sent me a couple of emails. Evidently, there are numerous YouTube videos out there on can a nail gun defeat bulletproof glass. Evidently, this guy's been watching YouTube videos on how to use a nail gun to get through bulletproof glass. Who knew? Who knew YouTube could be your source of bad information? Who knew? Who knew that sitting on the can with your mouth open, doing your research, would get you killed? I would argue watching Fox News and the rest of them, that could get you killed. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on line one. Alice, how are we doing?
We're doing okay. I wanted to say a couple of things. Number one, are you surprised that this guy decided to attack the FBI, going after the narrative that, Fox and all the right-wing lunatics have been portraying along with the Republican Party? I'm not surprised.
Not at all. And I feel sorry for him. I actually do. I feel sorry because this poor guy didn't really have a chance. As I've said from the beginning, you take somebody who's desperate, dim, and fearful, they can be moved in any direction. And as my friend says, I can make them a jihadist or a Jehovah's Witness. You just give me some time. And 40 years of Limbaugh and 40 years of hate, outrage candy radio and cable news, that's what we get.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, NBC News earlier was tweeting and was saying that he had been involved with January 6th, but that's neither here nor there. And the second thing that I wanted to say was my husband and I are taking bets on, not really taking bets, but we're both saying that Trump and his lawyers are going to say that for some odd reason that the warrant cannot be released. Because, of course, if it's released, it's not going to fit his narrative.
Of course not. No, that's where I started at the beginning. I think Garland did a marvelous thing by going, okay, we're going to release it. We want to open it up. We want to be transparent. We want people to see this. And putting the ball back in Trump's court, because Trump could have done this. I said that on day one. He easily could have come out and said, here it is. This is why this is false. And he didn't.
Absolutely. And, it's just a shame that, I'm not going to be surprised if we have some more of these incidences like today.
I fear we're going to.
Well, I do too. I really believe we are, because they're just so out of control. I mean, and when I say they, I mean the Republican Party and the right-wing media. And I told my husband, I said, well, Trump got somebody else killed. There we go. He and the Republicans and Fox News got somebody else killed. So, I don't know. The only thing I really, at this point, I'm beginning to think that, there's free speech and there's freedom of the press and all that, but maybe we should start declaring some of these media outlets as terrorists.
There you go.
Propaganda pushers.
Well, we got to do something. We got to start holding somebody accountable. Alice, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
No, I mean, at the end of this, something's got to give. I'm all in favor of free speech, but you read some of this stuff that this guy and others put out, vile, just downright vile.
In South Korea's capital region, a deluge, turning Seoul's busy streets into rivers.
South Korea, the latest victim of climate-intensified deadly flash floods. Last month, one of the hottest Julys ever recorded.
Tell me about it.
Plus,
protesters gathering outside factories like Heineken and Coca-Cola, demanding they reduce water use and redirect it to citizens.
Mexico declares state of emergency over intensifying persistent drought.
All of that intensification and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Among other things, the bill provides tax credits to boost solar panels, batteries, and other technologies, and also makes it costly to emit methane. Slight hitch on that last one. From now on, you have to pay a $10 toll every time you fart.
Damn it. This is your Green News Report.
Don't worry, there's going to be an easy pass. You're not going to like where it goes.
Okay, Desi Doyen, I thought we passed the climate bill. I thought this was all supposed to be solved by now.
We haven't passed it yet, and no, it is not solved by now.
Damn it.
South Korea this week is the latest country to be hit with record rainfall and deadly flash floods. The capital city of Seoul was deluged with as much as 18 inches of rain in a single day, triggering catastrophic flash floods that killed at least 10 people.
Another 1,000-year flood. They keep coming, day after day after day.
The flooding inundated homes, roads, and subways and cut power, forcing hundreds to evacuate. South Korea's president cited climate change in calling for improvements to the country's flood management system.
Good.
But rain is a precious commodity in Europe, now in the grip of one of its worst droughts ever recorded. Barge traffic on waterways is effectively halted in some regions as rivers run dry due to weeks of baking temperatures and scant rainfall, disrupting transport of goods worth $80 billion a year to regional economies. Officials in Britain warn that the country is on the brink of a vegetable shortage because crops have been ravaged by the summer heat wave. In Mexico, much of the northern part of the country is under extreme drought, forcing officials to implement water rationing in major cities and water deliveries by truck.
Just a little preview of what may be coming your way soon.
NBC reports that anger is growing in the region over multinational beverage companies with bottling plants like Coca-Cola and Heineken that are extracting billions of liters of water from public reservoirs. NASA scientist Benjamin Cook confirms that, yes, this is climate change.
Droughts and intense droughts and drying trends are all very consistent with what we expect with climate change.
So these big beverage companies are just taking the public's water, selling it off, and meanwhile, the public doesn't have enough actual water to drink?
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Meanwhile, Europe's climate monitor Copernicus announced that July 2022 was the third hottest July globally since record-keeping began in the 1880s.
Only the third?
Only the third. Summer 2022 is likely to rank as one of the 3 hottest years on record globally and has unleashed deadly extreme weather disasters across the globe. A new study warns global warming is also facilitating the spread of tropical diseases.
Oh, great.
A new study published this week finds that man-made climate change is already worsening the impact of diseases like Zika, malaria, and COVID-19 on human health.
You are nothing but good news today.
In other news, while we await passage in the U.S. House of the Democrats' landmark Inflation Reduction Act, the biggest climate legislation in U.S. history, the New York Times reports on a massive trove of internal documents that have revealed a well-funded, coordinated campaign among Republican state treasurers across the country to use government authority and taxpayer dollars to protect the fossil fuel industry.
Oh, of course.
The state treasurers are coordinating efforts to punish companies seeking to reduce their carbon emissions by shifting away from fossil fuel investments. One example, the Republican treasurer of West Virginia announced that he will retaliate against banks that refuse to finance coal projects by barring them from state government contracts.
Elected officials using the government to go after private companies if they dare take action on climate change.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Wow.
Finally, some good news. A sunken oil rig owned by Taylor Energy off the coast of Louisiana has been spewing oil into the Gulf of Mexico since 2004. Taylor Energy is now liquidating to pay over $400 million in cleanup costs. And in Australia, newly elected Australian Prime Minister Minister Anthony Albanese has set a new, legally binding national target to cut greenhouse gas emissions 43% by 2030. It's Australia's most meaningful climate legislation in decades. Elections have consequences.
Indeed, they do. For much more on all of those stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So lots of fun and entertainment around the raid of the Golden Palace. I still would have loved to see Trump on the side of the road in his bathrobe. That would have been. And now we're finding out that he was subpoenaed. They knew. Yeah, all of the narrative they were spinning from the beginning, all total BS. And I love the fact that, as I said earlier, Merrick Garland has come out and said, "Yep, we're gonna open it up. We're gonna make public the subpoena or the warrant," which, as I said, the day it happened, Trump could have done. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the raid of the Golden Palace and the right-wing freakout. I've asked our good friend Max Burns to come talk with us. Max is a Democratic strategist, also a columnist over at the Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com, the website. Max, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm loving the justifications for why, because there are a bunch of reasons why Trump could have these nuclear documents. These classified documents. One, the Rand Paul part of it, the FBI planted them. And then there's the representative from Ohio who's got a novel concept that he thinks classified documents are like a library.
Yeah, it is essentially just like checking out a book containing the most sensitive nuclear secrets in the world. I mean, unless Donald Trump was making good on his pledge to nuke the hurricanes to solve climate change, or he's starting his own nuclear program at Mar-a-Lago, there is zero reason for him to have these documents. These are things that were never supposed to leave the room they were in, much less the building, much less go into Donald Trump's giant Scrooge McDuckian vault, along with all of his erotic tapes. It's an insane thing to have to say that a former president stole nuclear secrets from his own country.
Yeah. Is it possible maybe Barron had a science project, needed some documents for? I don't know. I'm trying to figure the justification. I can't think of any other than, and this is where my mind goes, thinking that I kind of have a handle on who Trump is. It's just that status thing. Hey, look what I've got. I got a showpiece. I know people think he might want to sell them. I don't know. I think it's more the, hey, look what I've got kind of thing.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, the challenge has always been that Donald Trump is an idiot, but the people around him are not. I mean, the president was involved during his administration in a scandal about wanting to sell nuclear secrets and nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. And it is also a well-known fact that Mar-a-Lago is frequented by a number of foreign nationals, Chinese foreign nationals, Saudi foreign nationals, Russian foreign nationals. This is the easiest open-air marketplace for sensitive data in the world. And it was just piled up in his house as if it was, as Lara Trump said, newspaper clippings and things you would scrapbook.
It's one of those things where you just go, man, and yet you've got such a large percentage of the population defending this. No one else would be able to justify this kind of behavior. And yet you've got this dimwit in Cincinnati who's attacking an FBI office with an AR-15 and a nail gun because evidently somebody sent me the videos. Evidently he thought he could get through bulletproof glass with a nail gun.
Yeah, and so far we have not heard a single condemnation from any senior Republican about the fact that a Truth Social posting, Trump-loving, January 6th attending Republican went to the Cincinnati FBI office with the intent to kill as many FBI agents as he could, and was ultimately killed by police. And they're not condemning it because that is who they are. The Republicans who are cheering this on are saying the FBI is corrupt. It's a giant cult led by Joe Biden. And when you say that and you don't put up any resistance, you cannot be surprised when your voters pick up guns and act like this is an emergency.
Oh, this is why I said, look, Fox News, right-wing talk radio, the GOP, they got a man, they killed a man today. This is the reality. Their rhetoric, it's the same thing on January 6th. Trump got the base, the dim, the fearful, the desperate, got the mass of those people all lathered up and pointed them in a direction just like they did to that guy today.
Yeah, and the only difference is that on January 6th, Trump was eventually shamed into lightly condemning those rioters. We've got no such condemnation here because Donald Trump has made clear that he thinks the FBI is corrupt, that this is a third world country, that he is being persecuted just because he stole some nuclear secrets. And I do not expect that Ricky Schiffer, who the shooter, will be the last person involved. There, especially if Donald Trump is indicted, there will absolutely be incidents of violence, and we need to be preparing for that.
Yeah, I never say the name of any of these criminals. I don't want to give any other dim person, hey, they're going to say my name on radio or TV. No, don't give them any acknowledgement other than the dim, the deluded, the fearful, the useful idiot that they are. I feel for him. Look, I feel for this guy. I have sympathy for him and the millions of people like him who have been duped into buying what this con man and what the GOP has been selling for a long time. Because look, this isn't only Trump. This is where the GOP has been going for a long time.
I mean, yeah, it all it took for the mass incarceration Republicans to become anti-prison Antifa radicals was for their party leader to be accused of trafficking in nuclear secrets. Now they don't believe in investigations. They don't believe in cops. They don't believe in jail. But they do believe in whipping people up to take action. And this guy was not just acting for himself. He was talking on Truth Social for days, whipping people up, calling this a war, saying that we should not kill civilians, but we should kill every FBI agent on sight. And people were liking it and sharing it. And you will not see a condemnation of this because this is where we are.
They were retruthing it.
Retruthing it, yes. I'm sorry. I've never been there. I hear it's lovely.
No, I actually have a Truth Social account. I go in and I because I monitor this stuff just like I had a Gab account. I had a Parler account. I go into these places because I got to see what kind of insanity is being spewed. I don't participate. I don't want to be involved in it, but I want to see what my neighbors are saying because their thoughts are unvarnished and their thoughts are angry. Their thoughts are violent. Their thoughts are destructive. And this is where, as doing what I do, how can we reach these people, or is this too far gone at this point? And are we going to see many more of these dim walking in with a nail gun, going, "Hey, I saw a YouTube video. I did my research. I can get through that bulletproof glass." Is this what we're going to continue to see?
Yeah, and this is a serious problem. I mean, we've been talking about this since Ruby Ridge, since Waco. How do you de-radicalize people? We spent 20 years focusing on how do we de-radicalize Islamic extremists. And now we have to turn that same logic to this party, because this is a group where this shooter is being canonized as a saint. I mean, being killed while attempting to kill federal agents is the highest form of MAGA martyrdom. And that is something to be desired and something to be lifted up. And it is a dangerous ideology. It is plainly and proudly anti-democratic, and it will result in bloodshed if this isn't handled.
Now, what's interesting is you brought up Ruby Ridge and Waco, and I had a caller yesterday brought it up. Do you trust the FBI? Look at what they did there. And my understanding of both Ruby Ridge and Waco are simple. You have two choices when the FBI comes to your door. You can comply with the search warrant, the legally gotten search warrant, and go to court and go through and have every avenue that our court system affords you, or you can fight and deal with the consequences. And the consequences are going to be what those outcomes were. They're going to, one way or another, they are going to get their way. That's just how this game is played. And you should understand that, you know it. And when you put children in front of you as a barricade, you should understand that you are putting their lives in danger. When you put your pregnant wife out in front of it, same kind of thing. That's on you.
Yeah.
And we used to understand this. When did the narrative flip so far that now we don't know. It's law enforcement's fault for all of this?
Well, that's the case, and I'm certainly not one to argue that the FBI is perfect.
No.
But I think that this is substantively different, because when the FBI makes mistakes, it's almost always because they've stepped outside of protocol, that they're doing some shady black bag operation like they did on Martin Luther King that is under the radar and completely unauthorized. This was an effort that Merrick Garland and the DOJ took immense pains to follow protocol to the letter, because they knew this was going to be scrutinized. They worked really closely with Florida police, with the Secret Service. They filed in federal court these warrants with a Trump-appointed judge and received clearance. They made every effort to do this as low impact as possible, specifically because they wanted to protect themselves from accusations that they bent the rules.
Yeah.
And every indication we have is that this was an entirely by-the-book investigation, the same as they would do to any Democrat they thought had classified information illegally.
Yeah, like when they went after Cold Cash Jefferson to get the money out of his freezer. I didn't hear Republicans complaining about that. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're here with Max Burns. Max is a Democratic strategist, also a columnist over at The Daily Beast. Make sure you check out his work over at thedailybeast.com. Now, all of this is saying, hey, the polls are now tightening because, voters are going, yeah, Republicans seem a little crazy. The generic poll has it, as the congressional poll has it dead heat 41-41, which good news for Democrats. It's closing. But I look at that, you go generic ballot, with the amount of gerrymandering that's gone on in this country, I think Republicans still hold the lead. I still think they're going to take the House. But I'm curious, your thoughts.
I think if you look at how depressed Democrats were 6 months ago and how certain that many were that we were going to be wiped out, it shows you how fickle this is and how politics moves so quickly when you start to win. I mean, Joe Biden's had a string of wins here. Republicans have really stepped in it with the January 6th committee. That's staying in the headlines much more than we thought. These are good things. I no longer take it as a foregone conclusion that Democrats lose Congress. I think that this enthusiasm we've seen is indicative of a party that has needed a jolt, has needed big wins, and has needed Republicans to make mistakes. And all of those have come back to back to back in the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Biden's approval ratings are rising, but sadly, and this is another thing, I mean, I've spent, and I'm as much to blame for this as anyone. I've spent this our entire show talking about the raid of the Golden Palace, the fact that Trump had potentially had these nuclear documents that the government wants back. All of this, and we spent all that. We didn't spend time on the massive wins that the Biden administration has been racking up lately, and things that are going to make people's lives immensely better down the road, and potentially help us save the planet.
Yeah, I mean, this Manchin-Schumer bill alone is monumental. And this is, in many ways, a validation of Joe Biden's view of bipartisanship. I mean, it was mocked at the time, and it certainly took time to build. But there have been a number of bipartisan wins that have come up. This Inflation Reduction Act is already reducing inflation. There is a strong Democratic platform here to run on. And in this optimism, though, we have to remember to keep fighting for abortion rights. This is starting to slip off the radar, and Republicans are starting to advance because of that. And we need to keep that a focus as well.
No, you keep talking about how crazy the Republicans have gotten on this issue and how far off the fringe they are. Because I go back to gerrymandering. I go back to how uncompetitive. In fact, at the Brennan Center just put out a study, maybe you've seen it, that said right now our congressional districts are the most uncompetitive that they have ever been. And you go, how is that possible? I mean, you go back 100 years when they invented gerrymandering or whatever that came up, you go, even worse than then. We have the most uncompetitive districts in the history of this country right now.
Yeah, and it's at this moment, historically, when you start to see the political process be usurped by civil unrest and activism in the street and direct democracy. There's a similar situation in England in the 19th century, where they had very unrepresentative boroughs that would elect members of parliament, and you could buy your way in with 5 votes in some of these rotten boroughs, they were called. And that led to a huge social uprising, a huge first wave of labor class consciousness, because people were being shut out of the process. And I think that these resolve themselves one way or the other. It is an option we have to resolve this with politics, or it will be resolved in the streets. People do not tolerate having their voice taken away so blatantly.
No, I'm right there with you. But as always, Max, I appreciate the time. Great stuff. Good stuff as always.
Thank you so much. Our
good friend Max Burns. Make sure you check out the work that he does over at The Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com, the website. We'll get links out on social media. You can check that out. We'll take a quick break. Right back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Back after this.
If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. You know, generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
This story drives me insane. This is the kind of stuff that just anger. Norm Shiver over at the New York Times had a piece on Chipotle. Evidently, Chipotle had an agreement with the city of New York. They agreed to settle the wage theft claims that they had there for an eye-popping $20 million. In fact, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, said in the statement that, these 13,000 workers who were affected by this, this sends a strong message that we won't stand by when workers' rights are violated. Because, again, what happened is Chipotle, broke the laws of New York. New York has some laws that cover scheduling, sick leave, and what the city did is they went after this company from November of 2017 through April of this year, and they said, you violated these laws and a bunch of them. And under this settlement, all of the people who worked for Chipotle during this period of time are going to receive $50 a week in settlement money. And you go, oh, that's great. That's fantastic. That it's a little bit extra money. But when you read down into the story, now again, there are a bunch of laws there that you have to have so many hours off between shifts if you're going to be working consecutive shifts. Because in the restaurant industry, they have this term called clopen, where you close and open, and sometimes you have like 6-7 hours off between shifts. One of the laws they have there is there has to be at least 11 hours off between shifts on consecutive days, or get written permission from the person and get an extra $100 in pay to be able to do it. So you make it a little costly. You're supposed to give up to, I think it was 56 hours of sick time. There are a bunch of these laws that went into place. So when you saw the headline, $20 million settlement for these 13,000 workers, You had to read down to get like through 3/4 of it to find out that originally the city had said just in the scheduling part of it alone, just in the one violation alone, that they believed that the company owed the workers over $150 million. And you go, I'm confused. How did you go? You owe the workers $150 million, but then only settled for 20. I mean, this isn't even all the other stuff. This is the kind of thing that drives me crazy about what happens in corporate America. And again, I go back to my strong belief in every working person should be in a labor union. Every workplace should have a union, because I'll say this again, in all the years I've ever worked, I have never been cheated out of a dime in a union workplace. Now, companies have tried. Yes, they have. There have been a couple of times they'd take, 0.2 or a half an hour for this or half an hour for that. And I'd dutifully file a grievance. I'll file a grievance for 6 minutes. You bet I will. Because as soon as they'll take it, I'll fight for it. And a couple of weeks later, you hear the grievance and you get paid for it. None of this stuff waiting a year, 2, 3. 2017 is when this began. For me, it's that immediacy in the workplace. You got people paying attention. You got people right there to make things right at that moment. This is one of the main reasons I think people need a union. And this would have never happened. This would have never grown to this kind of an outrageous situation. Again, another reason why every working person needs a union. But I look at this and I keep going, why is it that we keep shortchanging working people? You got the mayor going, oh, we're going to send a message. What message did you send? The message you sent is, if you cheat them enough, you're still going to win. You rob, steal from working people, slap on the wrist. Do you know what didn't happen here? You didn't see anybody go to jail. You want to unite the working class? Start locking up some CEOs for stealing. This is the weird part of where we are. We understand locking up the poor guy who stole 3 peppermint patties in Philadelphia for 500 days. We get that. He stole peppermint patties. That's bad. But when they steal nuclear documents, we're divided. When they steal wages from workers, oversight. When they destroy companies and steal pension plans and destroy communities, we never hold them accountable. When banks and economies collapse, we don't really seem to hold those people accountable. But boy, that guy who took those peppermint patties, we understand that. And you wonder why it continues. You wonder why these companies keep doing it, because they keep getting away with it. You go, oh, but they got fined $20 million. They settled for $20 million. I would argue it's probably $150 million just in the scheduling part. The rest of it, probably double that. And we do this all the time. And corporate America keeps getting away with it. And I go back to my main premise. This is why workers need unions. And this is why companies spend so much time, energy, and effort fighting unions. Because they know that there's someone there to hold them accountable. There's someone there to hold them responsible when they break the rules. For me, it's simple. I would be considered today almost an old school conservative. The goalposts have moved so far to the extreme right that today's conservatives are so radical. I've stayed the same. I believe in life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, follow your dreams, keep government out of my life, but regulate where important. But this stuff, this drives me nuts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. You got comments? I want to hear it. Also, if you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, you will find ours. And if you don't, let us know, and we will make sure we get it there. We'll take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1894. That was the day that federal troops pushed Kelly's Industrial Army out of Washington, D.C. and across the Potomac River. The Army was a group of unemployed men who had come to the nation's capital to protest government inaction. The country was in the grip of an economic depression. The nation's agricultural regions in the South and Great Plains were also hit by a drought. Times were hard for American workers and families. The call had gone out across the nation for the unemployed to make their way to the doorstep of Congress. The goal was to petition for public infrastructure projects to put people back to work. Businessman Jacob Coxey had organized a March of the Unemployed from Ohio. Charles T. Kelly and his group came from California. They rode the rails and made it to Des Moines, Iowa, where they encamped. After a while, the local residents decided the unemployed group had outstayed their welcome. The Iowans provided lumber so the Industrial Army could build flatboats and be on their way. By the time Charles Kelly and his men made it to D.C., Coxey had already been sentenced to 20 days in jail for trespassing on the Capitol lawn. Yet unemployed men from across the country kept coming into the nation's capital. 1,200 men arrived from different points across the country. One of those in Kelly's group was a young author by the name of Jack London. London wrote of his experience, quote, "Across the wild and woolly West, clear from California, General Kelly and his heroes captured trains. But they fell down when they crossed the Missouri and went up against the effete East. The marchers' protests earned no help from Congress." Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
America's stringent system of corporate capitalism keeps carving out new depths of worker exploitation. Take Chick-fil-A, a right-wing, Atlanta-based fast food operation boasting that it follows, quote, biblically based principles. Like slavery? Well, Chick-fil-A hasn't gone quite that biblical yet, but one of its franchises recently pioneered a novel labor compensation innovation that comes close, literally paying some workers chicken feed. This outlet of the $11 billion a year chain called on area residents to staff its new drive-through express. But in lieu of wages, they were offering chicken sandwiches. Join the express team and you'd be paid 5 chicken items per shift. That worked out to less than minimum wage, plus indigestion. What we have here is one more absurd illustration that America's sanctified work ethic is a fraud, an empty promise that you'll get ahead if you just work hard enough, keep your nose to the grindstone, and stay loyal to the corporate order for life, no matter how vacuous. But the game is up, for workers across the economy are now seeking more from life than 50 years of serving the company. They're even organizing anti-workaholism groups like I Don't Want a Career, Rest is Resistance, and the NAP Ministry. But don't mistake this rebellion as mere satire by a few puckish slackers. Today's nationwide shortage of workers, from truck drivers to teachers, is not a momentary economic blip, but a defiant declaration of independence from a form of work that is life-sucking. This is Jim Hightower saying, people are not afraid of hard work, nor averse to long hours, if the task and the cause are worth both time and effort. And worth it is increasingly being measured in higher values than dollars alone, including a sense of purpose, community, respect, fairness, and fun.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So big primaries yesterday in Vermont, Connecticut, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Some interesting stories coming out of it. Some of the, I guess, some crazy stories coming too. I mean, in primaries, you're going to have some, some intrigue, if you will, especially today. And well, with the Trump things going on, interesting to see who the Trump folks who won were, and just how crazy things can be. And if Dems plans to go, hey, let's push the crazy of the crazy to the front of the line, maybe they win. and that's when the entertainment could happen. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the big Tuesday primaries and whatever news we can bang around after that. I've asked Austin Linfante to come talk with us. Austin is the multimedia guru and reporter over at Heartland Signal, heartlandsignal.com. They're our radio partners over at WCPT AM 820 in Chicago. Austin, thanks for taking time for us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So big results Tuesday. Got one of Trump's endorsed folks in Wisconsin for the gubernatorial race immediately took down anything having to do with Trump. Kind of weird.
Yeah, pretty weird. Tim Michaels won the GOP nomination for the gubernatorial race in Wisconsin, looking to take on Tony Evers. And basically, within hours of him winning, and this is a guy who rallied with Trump and boasted his endorsement. Within hours of doing that, just basically erased Trump from his website. Basically, and even then it was like one sentence, but it was really weird that it happened, especially because it came back like a few hours later.
So the argument though, it's just a computer glitch. Maybe your browser was just the FBI raided your browser.
Oh right, yeah, of course. That's the thing they always do. That's the thing that they're paying our taxes for.
Look. Hey, if Rand Paul can think that the FBI planted evidence in Trump's safe, anyone, some Chinese guy could hack into this guy's website and most certainly, delete one line of code.
Yeah, of course. Not even one line, just one part of one line of code. And not to mention, you have like Ron Johnson who's saying like, Trump was about to expose the FBI and had the documents, and that's what they took from him. So, you see all of this kind of stuff coming about the FBI. It's always funny to see whatever they try to make the next right-wing flavor of the month sort of thing.
The thing is it sometimes it gets so ridiculous that you go, you couldn't even write this. We were talking about this last night. It's so jumped the shark at this point. It's so absurd what is going on with the former guy and all of the things that he did and just trying to hold him accountable that it's so unbelievable that no one would have ever written it, and if you did write it, no one would ever read it.
Yeah, of course. I think that's the whole thing with comedy is you can't really do comedy anymore because it's basically just real life. You can't really much exaggerate where we're at right now.
Wow. Crazy. Let's move over to Minnesota. You had another victory on Tuesday. The woman who won the GOP side of the Secretary of State. She's got the nomination for November. She seems, is this right? She seems to think people with disabilities and people who don't speak English shouldn't be allowed to vote. Is that it? So blind people or people who are missing a limb, maybe veterans who are missing a limb or something, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Is that what I'm getting from her?
Yeah, if not that, then she very well is just openly questioning. She's just asking questions. That whole Tucker Carlson thing. But basically, she went on a radio show in 2020. And basically said we have to put all these extra resources for disabled people, physically disabled people, and people who don't speak English, and openly wonders maybe those people shouldn't vote ? And this is a woman who now won the nomination, who would be in control of all voting in Minnesota. And one of her policy things is that Minnesota has one of the longest early voting periods and thing, and as a result. When 2020, 80% of the populace voted, and she's like, "No, that's too much.
Too much.
We got to turn it down."
Election denier by any chance?
Oh, of course. What?
Of course. Yeah. That's almost that should get me barred from voting for just asking that question in her world, shouldn't it? Because the question becomes, if you're disabled, what level of disability? Is asking a stupid question a disability? Should people who are disabled be able to vote? Should that disqualify you from voting?
Yeah, of course. And I really like what you said about the veterans thing. It's just you can serve and get a Purple Heart, but as soon as you try to get into a ballot box for the place, country you served, then no, it's too much work.
Wow. I mean, and then on the English speaking part, I know a lot of people who were born in this country, long lineage, relatives who I question what the words coming out of their mouth, the word salad coming out of their mouth, if that's actually English. I question the choice and the jumbling of words and the particular order in which they go in. I question that. So would they be able to vote in her world?
Now we got to go back to the whole literacy test from the Jim Crow era, I guess.
All right.
But yeah, that's basically where they want to take us again.
Making literacy tests great again. Geez, scary, crazy times. Also, hey, we're doing the abortion thing still. That's still front and center, kind of. We're still figuring out how to hate people and use the Holocaust to justify making abortion illegal. Am I getting this right in your state of Illinois? You got your Republican gubernatorial choice going, hey, no, we're gonna go full on Nazi. Is that what I'm getting?
So yeah, so Darren Barely, when you talk about people who probably aren't speaking all that well English in general, that he's one of those people. Basically, he basically talked about how when brought up abortion, and it was like, the Holocaust doesn't even scratch the surface compared to the amount of lives lost with abortion, and people were like, "Whoa, that's like talking about abortion, like." Why would you even bring abortion into this? And some radio station went to him and basically was like, hey, do you still stand up by those things? And he was super proud of it. He was basically like, oh, yeah, no. The Jewish community, as in like the whole Jewish community, endorsed him for that. So it was like, and he's still just digging his own grave, but I don't even think he knows he's digging his own grave. He just legitimately believes this stuff. And
this is the scary part. And this is the deadly serious part in all this. Because we've got our very own Nazi right here in Pennsylvania running for governor, and the people that follow him don't realize it. That all of the crazy stuff like this, that's worse than they internalize. They believe this. They don't see the absurdity in the statements. They believe it wholeheartedly, and they will fight for it. And they're the same ones who are extraordinarily well armed, talking about they raided Trump's palace, Golden Palace. To get classified documents back probably, and that's the reason we should have a civil war. These are the scary people, and the fact that they're now saying this stuff out loud without shame, without looking over their shoulder, and loudly should be concerning to everyone.
I absolutely agree. It's just the fact that like they're putting out all the most extreme statements first, so when people like us try to correct them, the fact of the matter is like, oh no, because they said it first and said it loud, and it's something akin to like, oh, they're saying what's on their mind and they're telling the truth, which is of course not the case, but yeah, it's leaning towards a very dark and dangerous path.
I guess there's a positive if you can find a positive in this, and I always like to try and find positive out of absurdity and craziness. If you can find a positive. At least he's not denying that the Holocaust existed or ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. That very, very, very baby steps are probably the smallest you can ever take. But I guess we have the GOP nominee in Illinois confirmed that the Holocaust did in fact happen.
He is no longer. There is at least one crazy right-wing person who is not a Holocaust denier. There's a start. There is a start towards growth and common ground. Maybe we found the thread that reunites the country once again. But abortion clearly not going to be the issue. And let's hop over to Indiana, where the fun and entertainment continues, because you've got an Indiana state representative who explain this to me. Wants people who. The fetus is not viable, but still wants them to have to go through the whole process of giving birth to a a dead fetus. Is this right? And then trying to explain to a child in the most harsh of terms that, life, that happens.
Yeah, exactly. You actually got all right. So the representative you're talking about, Representative Davison from Indiana, back when they were doing introducing all these sorts of amendments to the abortion bill that they passed last week. One that they proposed was basically like stillbirths don't count as a matter for getting abortion, and basically that's basically saying like, oh, you have to carry a stillbirth baby, as in like a stillbirth baby, like something inside you that is already dead will not survive, carry it to term, and just absolutely leave that trauma out. And one of the Democratic representatives basically led his line of questioning, and you can already kind of tell he was thinking about it really hard. This is probably the first time he's ever thought, like, maybe it might be sad if that happens. But the best he could come up with was essentially, when you have to tell your children that you're going to give birth to so the fetus inside you is not going to become a human being, just tell them that death is part of life and accept that. Basically, just get over it.
The tough love thing. Well, at least they didn't go the Rick Santorum route, where they had a whole funeral for the miscarriage, and they named it, and they did all kinds of things, and all of that. Which, again, I think is kind of weird. But hey, good on them. They that's how they deal with loss, and they weren't trying to make that part of the law and part of a justification for making other people do things. So I give them credit for, do your thing, but don't force it down the throats of others. This guy seems to be wanting to force this down other people's throats. And this is my problem. While I am personally not in favor of abortion, not that I could ever have one, but I would, I wouldn't want my wife to have one, wouldn't want my children to have one. I do want them to be safe. I am pro safety. I don't want people forced into backroom alleys. I don't want horrible things to happen. And I certainly don't want families, because I know people who have gone through this. And I know people who have struggled and because of their extreme religiosity, that this was a huge burden for them to go through a process to have it taken out. This is just horrible that you'd want to put this into law. I mean, you have no idea how angry this stuff makes me.
Yeah, and you saw the absolute worst in this whole debate in Indiana. Like, you had one person just openly coming out and chanting, "Not her body, not her choice." Basically just kind of daring anyone who would want. And this was a guy who voted no against the abortion agreement because it didn't go far enough. Like basically voting for that thing, and along with rape and incest and anything that would just harm the life of the mother. This person wanted absolutely nothing with it. And this guy, going by the test, like the citizen testimony, this guy had a pretty big following, or at least a lot of people who agree with them.
Scary stuff. Now, you brought up, rape and incest, and now it seems Republicans are coming back to that a little bit, doesn't it? Because there's, what happened in Kansas kind of woke them up a little bit. The country isn't with them on the kind of draconian, hateful, positions that they have. So they're at least, pulling back on the rape and incest part. But as one reporter pointed out, that, this is going to require police reports. Is that a bad thing?
So it doesn't sound like a bad thing at first, but we had Kate Lee Johnson, one of our reporters here, look into it a bit more. And basically, in order to do this, in order to qualify for many of the rape exceptions, Oklahoma being a big example, Idaho as well, you'd have to submit a police report, which sounds fine on paper. Like, basically, what you would think whenever something that tragic happens, you go to the police and you talk about it. But it really kind of simplifies something that, I would say, just kind of simplifies what's going through the mind of a traumatized person. And basically, because they don't want to go through that. They already went through something extremely traumatic. And to go through it again and go through this absolute sterile process of them being asked to press charges or at least think about it and probably prolong this more. That's why many people who survive sexual assault and rape don't report it.
Yeah, see, this is where my male brain. This is man brain speaking. So women, you can feel free to send me emails. Say shut the blank up, and I'm okay with that because they probably deserve it. But man brain says no. I want retribution. I want vengeance. I want my day. I want punishment. I want you getting what you deserve. So the fact that you wouldn't report it, the fact that you wouldn't seek some kind of punishment, man brain doesn't understand.
It basically just comes to the fact of people already being in a traumatized situation. And again, if you try to get a rape kit, you only have until basically 24 hours to do it, and you would have to be in the right set of mind to do it. And that's not to mention that you would have to keep on confronting someone who maybe someone you know, maybe this is your partner, this is your like if you're a woman, this is your husband, and that's something that you're not ready to take on, more or less. And but basically it's all individualized. And some people want that sort of retribution. Some people just want to end immediately.
No, see, now perfect, total clarification here. Shouldn't have to justify this in any way, shape, or form. That's my belief. Should be safe, legal. It's your body. You should be able to do what you need to do with it. This is not something that should be part of this. But in the event in rape and incest, I do want it reported. I do want people held accountable. I do want them punished. And as a father of two daughters, well, the punishment that I would hand out would be a little bit more draconian. Just my take on this. Anyway, you're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're with Austin Infante. Linfante, he is the multimedia guru and reporter over at Heartland Signal, heartlandsignal.com. I want to finish up on the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, the conservatives have been saying it's going to massively increase inflation, going to make things so much worse. Democrats say, no, it's going to make things better. I don't know. I don't think it's going to make things either way. I'm more in favor of it because it's going to do things on the climate. We're going to spend some money on healthcare, really good things. Maybe if you care about the deficit, if you're a deficit fetishist, it's going to bring that down a little bit. But for me, it's the investments that we're going to make that are important. But we've got this Kansas senator, Roger Marshall, who he's got a different thought, and one I didn't think of. I'll give you the punchline.
Yeah, basically when this came into our newsroom, we were just kind of baffled by it. Apparently he's quoting a commercial that Big Pharma put out, basically trying to be debating one provision about it, which is basically allowing Medicare to negotiate prices lower, which great for us for lower prescription for drug prices, bad for them because they can't charge like $500 for a life-saving pill. But basically, Roger Marshall went on TV, went on Newsmax specifically, and was basically saying, if this passes, then the cure for Alzheimer's will be delayed. That's basically what his argument was, and basically saying like, just because it will stifle innovation, it'll delay the cure for Alzheimer's. So really think about what you're doing. And again, it's just so baffling. Like not only is it just like a big pharma talking point, it just doesn't make any sense. Like you do the absolute basic amount of research, where you probably don't even have to do. It's kind of like with the IRS thing. Like the conservatives are mad about the IRS agents thing, about adding 8,000 new things. The only reason I did that is because the Trump administration got rid of all those jobs and basically nuked it, and they're just trying to replenish it back. And if you think that like they did that because to benefit the middle class and not to keep IRS agents off of people who should be the wealthiest of Americans who should be paying their taxes, then again, I have a beach house in Idaho that you'd be great to, that you really should be looking at.
No, it's scary stuff. And also, you could have made the argument instead of just Alzheimer's, immortality. They're working on a drug for immortality. And just because you made them negotiate prescription drug prices, no more immortality.
Yeah, no more immortality.
Could have died.
Yeah, we could have gotten the pill to basically turn us all into Superman and Superwoman, and we just got just because people don't want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars each month for their thing, we can't be superheroes.
Joe Biden capping insulin at $35 for Medicare recipients. That was a bridge too far. Damn it! That means no more immortality. You're gonna die, and it's all Joe Biden's fault.
Yeah. If you somehow die, it is literally Joe Biden's fault.
No, when you die, it's going to be Joe Biden's fault. No matter what happens.
No, you talked about the immortality thing. Like,
oh yeah,
if you die.
Okay, there it is. If you die, it's all his fault. Perfect point. There you go. Now that's the place to end this. If you die, it is Joe Biden's fault. That's simple. All because someone else got lower prescription drug prices. Granny got lower prescription drug prices. That's the argument. All right. Austin, I appreciate the time as always. Good stuff. Keep up the great work there at Heartland Signal, man.
No problem. To keep up great work with you.
Thanks so much, our good friend Austin Linfante. He is the multimedia guru there at Heartland Signal. Check out their website, heartlandsignal.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2013. That was the day a somewhat unexpected new union formed in Bangor, Maine. Local 207 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers represents lobster fishermen. Lobster fishermen are known for being fiercely independent, so it surprised many when some started talking union. One of those to bring up the early idea of forming a union was Magnus Lane, a fisherman originally from Iceland. There was cause for concern in the Maine lobster industry that year. A glut of lobsters had driven prices down to a 40-year low. At the same time, fuel and bait prices continued to rise. More than 100 lobstermen and women attended that first meeting. They elected officers and settled on bylaws. In a television interview, newly elected local president Rocky Ally explained, "We're the ones who catch the lobster. We should be able to control the price." Over the next year, membership grew to 600 members from up and down the Maine coast. A year after the union was founded, boat captain Julie Eaton explained the importance of the new union in a newspaper interview. She said, "For the first time, we feel like we have a voice. For the first time, we feel hope that we can protect our way of life." While some lobster fishermen support the union, others have organized against unionization. But the union has been able to win some legislative protections. For example, they were able to ensure that lobster fishermen can keep their fishing license while on active military duty. This union continues to chart new waters in the fight for working people in Maine.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2. Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Seriously, you got angry emails, I want them, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. That's where you email me. Because a lot of it gives me interesting content, like at the beginning today. On the abortion front, I mean, this is one of those things that you look at this. You look at this guy, you have this legislator, and this is where gerrymandering really. We talked about this earlier in the week with David Pepper. And this is where our legislators have gotten way out to the extreme from where the people are. The vast majority of people are not as extreme as what Republicans are putting forth in state houses across this country. They're really not. This kind of idea that, and during the break I was thinking about a friend whose wife, they were excited about they're going to have another child, and they were really excited about it, and wasn't there, and they were like 5 months in, and it was not viable, and the doctor's like, "Well, go in and do a D&C," and I don't know what D&C, I don't remember, dilation and something. My nurse friend calls it a dusting and cleaning, which is a weird kind of title, but anyway. They pained over going through this medical procedure to go through and save her the trauma of going through the birthing process for this, because it would, I guess, continue to grow or whatever. And then there was this debate that went back and forth on will it come back to life? I mean, it was the most bizarre kind of situation, and the trauma that they went through over this, I'll never forget. And these legislators, they don't care about those folks. As I say about a lot of things, I may not be 100% on one side or the other issue, but I am 100% knowing that legislators like this guy and state governments like this shouldn't be making these decisions for people. These are individual choices. These are family choices, not government choices. Conservatives used to believe that. Real conservatives. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, download the podcast. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.